2016, with the help of 14 master teaching scholars and other UIC experts, UIC's Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning Communities, or affectionately known as TLC, offered workshops on 6 topics, one of them being introverts and extroverts in the classroom. The center was established in August 2015 to facilitate the development of various sized learning communities, where UIC faculty who teach UIC's large and diverse student body, and especially those faculty who teach undergraduates, have opportunities to grow as teachers, strengthen their teaching practice, learn from peers, and innovate inside and outside of the classroom. This workshop was led by 2 TLC master teaching scholars, Rob Ryder in the Department of Germanic Studies and Michael Popowitz in the Department of Accounting. Inspired by Susan Cain's bestseller book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, and years of teaching undergraduate students in small and large classes, Rob and Michael helped colleagues across UIC colleges who attended the workshop to consider how they organize instruction to offer opportunities to learn to both students who think out loud and on their feet, and those who listen more than they talk. The goal is to encourage college teachers across disciplines to nuance their thinking about what counts as student engagement in the classroom.
My name is Rob Ryder. I am the director of the Basic Language Program in German. So I teach very, very small classes. In fact, Herr Popowitz here is one of my students in a class of 6. I'm teaching business German right now. So we have very small classes, which allows for very, partner work and group work mostly.
I'm Michael Popowitz. I'm in the College of Business in the Department of Accounting, known for its introverts, and I also run a professional development program there.
So this is our possible agenda, is taking the actual VERT quiz and going through some of the effects on our teaching, on our students. We want to talk a little bit about classroom setups and talk a little bit about some of the theory behind extroversion, introversion, and then just really talk a lot about teaching strategies at the end.
So she would also include aspects of the stimulation in your environment, that introverts typically like a lower stimulation environment in general. Maybe quiet when they're studying instead of having background music. That's a possibility. Extroverts would like more stimulating environments. I know people that can't work at home when it's too quiet, but boy, when they're at Starbucks, they get a lot done. There's just kind of enough energy and stimulation for them. So trying to set the ideal for stimulation. Listening versus talking. Introverts, again, we're talking stereotypically, would maybe rather listen first before they speak. Extroverts would go to speaking more quickly. Introverts might feel more comfortable writing out their ideas, or at least writing them out first. Extroverts might just like to talk them out. Even if they're not quite sure, they'll kind of find it through talking. Other dynamics?
Another one that we have on slides here is sort of active versus contemplative. And this is, again, not in any way a bias of good or bad. But that, basically what Michael was saying, that the extroverts would rather speak out more quickly than the more contemplative introvert.
And also that we're all pretty situational. So there's no such thing as the 100% introvert or 100% extrovert. So that's what I mean by ambiverts. We're all somewhat ambivert, and we're a mixture of both.
One of the first things that we're going to do is take the quiz. So if you don't know whether you're an introvert or extrovert or somewhere in between, we're all mostly in between, by the way, then we will find out. And one of the things we're curious about is how you react to the quiz.
14. 17. Kind of on the introverted half. That's interesting.
So I just read this morning, actually, a little blog where a teacher actually did this. He did it with his students, but it turned out the results were really surprising. He did very much the same thing, but he was somewhere where we are all, and all of his students were on the far end of extroversion at like 0 to 5, right? Why? Well, simple reason, actually. The kids who were answering didn't want to look weird. They didn't want to look introverted, that they'd rather read than be out with their friends, you know? And so already there was a stigma in the test itself where the students didn't want to show that they were introverted. What does that mean? What does that show us? That shows us that there is still a stigma for these definitions of introversion, extroversion. That extroversion means you're more cool, as opposed to the introverted who's, you know, alone in the corner reading.
Is it something that you have or feel like you should address or do address in your disciplines? I work in a very social discipline, but I was also a biology major before that, another great place for introverts, at least for me as an introvert. But I just wondered, how does this play out? I mean, we're more on the introverted side ourselves. Does that mean professors naturally are? How does that affect our teaching? Does it affect our teaching? Do we teach in our own image? What do you do? What do you perceive your students are? Does it vary by discipline? How much do we cater to it? So we design a classroom so it's more comfortable for extroverts to do extroverted things and engage extrovertedly, introverts to do introverted things. And how much do we challenge them to grow in the other direction, to get the benefits of the other end of the spectrum? Not that we're 100%. That's a big thing that I look at when we look at professional development. Whether you're introverted or extroverted, we all have to be able to lead teams, speak in public, speak on the fly, go through interviews and do that well. That's a kind of extroverted activity. So we're kind of pushing people, trying to make it easy to engage, but then set the challenges step by step. With the extroverts, sometimes it's cooling them off. This is not a purely social situation. So there's the benefits of the deep thinking, which introverts are supposed to be a little better at. So how much should we accommodate it, or do you, and how much do you challenge it?
In one class, you know, these students, they present and they do progress updates and they do a formal, you know, PowerPoint presentation to the class, and it always is the extrovert on the team or the one that, you know, doesn't mind speaking to the front of the class. And so I tried this semester to have an informal, instead of a formal presentation, a 5-minute status update or a 3-minute status update, and I said it has to be the person who's spoken less over the last semester. In your team, I know who that's going to be, so that has to be that person, but everyone, it's a group grade, so everyone on your team has to prepare, you know, help prepare that student, like what do you want them to share to make sure that everyone knows whatever the progress is. So I was thinking about how do you help that gain those presentation skills or those speaking skills.
There are 3 reasons why group brainstorming fails. So that was the example that I was talking about, like trying to collect ideas. Social loafing. So these are roles that people take on without roles being assigned to them, right? So social loafing is fairly clear. You know, you're in a group, you don't do anything. Everyone else, let everyone else do it. You know, that's one way to escape doing homework. So that's sitting back. The second one is production blocking. What does she mean by that? That only one person in a group can actually speak, right? So everyone else has to listen in and can't speak. And so that's a kind of filibustering, a natural filibustering in group work, right? And you're forced to sit passively, which leads to the social loafing, I guess. And then what I was mentioning in the last point, which was this evaluation apprehension, that the fear of looking stupid in front of other people's, in front of other eyes. So you don't, these are some of the ways in which you don't get your ideas, or students don't get their ideas across in group work because of these factors.
So I have to talk about what the roles are. I have to explain that when you're onboarding in a group, what are the things, roles and goals, agreements about communication, how soon are we going to return emails. That's what can I expect from my group members. There's no right or wrong, just come up with expectations that people can be held to. And then how can they actually demonstrate their participation in the team? That's why I like having some aspect of the group work being a presentation, because that is something each person can have a piece of, and it's pretty clear if somebody is just phoning in somebody else's work. People really own their own work, so even if it's just a short presentation of a piece of the group's work, there's a demonstration of their actual participation.
And there's a few resources that we've posted onto the TLC website. Maybe we can even just go to it, but where she's interviewed about education, and one of the points she makes is precisely what you're talking about: online technology. That that she says, that apps allow students to contribute to class discussions in this sort of anonymous setting, where their own mobile phones become clickers, and so everyone has the opportunity to participate. And I use that both for individuals. I mean, for online, it would have to be live, but you can also do group work with that. So what's great is that you have one phone and 2 or 3 students in the class, and they have to talk amongst themselves to answer the right one at the right at the time. It also helps, I think you were explaining to me, that demonstrating one's own path, learning path. That as a teacher of German or of business, that we also had our own problems in solving these things, and I think that also tends to break down the wall of expert versus student. We were students once too, right? And that we had to keep asking questions, and we had our own barriers to cross. So I think that's sort of a slight variation on the theme, but I think speaking to the learning paths, whether it's their own or yours in the classroom, and how you got there.
As the TLC Master Teaching Scholars pointed out during the workshop, some of which was briefly captured in this video, appreciating the variety of ways in which students feel comfortable interacting with others and are able to focus on thinking and performing, some of which are linked to sociocultural, racial, ethnic, gender, and many other norms and ways of being that people have embraced in their own lives, is of utmost importance in any educational setting. This doesn't mean that as teachers we should shy away from including in teaching practices that may challenge particular students, but it does imply that we should be mindful to balance in our practice opportunities for all students to be able to both learn content and feel good about themselves, and to excel, hopefully, in many aspects of our classes. As teachers, we need to remember that the sound of silence may be an indication of thinking and learning, in the same way that a bustling, noisy classroom may offer students opportunities to collaborate and create together. Rosa Parks' quiet strength, that Susan Cain references in her book, should be a reminder to all of us that listening, drafting ideas alone, contemplating possibilities are as needed as talking, thinking in the company of others, and jumping into solution.